Hello, everyone. So today we're going to be looking at some questions that could come on your ability test. These are questions that involve age. Now, there are different types of questions that involve age. So for this video, I'm only going to be looking at one type, but there are other types. So you probably will see me do another video. So you can look out for that. So let us look at an example of what the types of questions I'm talking about. Here we go. So it says John is 10 years old. In 5 years' time, Mary will be twice as old as John will be. How old is Mary? So the first thing we note in this is that we're talking about two people. We're talking about John and Mary. And we are also noticing that we're talking about how old they are now, as well as how old they will be sometime in the future. So my suggestion to you would be to do a little table. So we're talking about now and we're talking about in the future. And we know that future is going to be in 5 years' time. So I'm just going to put a little arrow and put 5 years. All right. So it says John is 10 years old. So I'm going to write John here and I'm going to say now in the present he's 10 years old. That's information that we're getting from the question. John is 10 years old. In 5 years' time, Mary will be twice as old as John will be. So let us first find out what is John going to be in 5 years' time. If we add 5 years to the 10, John in the future is going to be 15 years old. Then it says Mary will be twice as old as John. So in the future, in 5 years in the future, she's going to be twice as old as John, and twice as old as John is going to be 15 times 2, twice as old. And we could have done that in our head, and that's going to be 30. 5 years from now, Mary, I can put Mary here, Mary is going to be 30 years old. But the question is asking, how old is Mary now? So Mary is not 30 now. We're going to have to minus that 5 years that we had added on from this 30, and Mary is now 25 years old. So the answer to that is Mary is 25 years old. Easy peasy, don't it? Very easy. If you just set it up and map out what you're doing, you shouldn't have a problem. All right, let's look at another similar question. Jack is 8 years old. In 6 years' time, Anne will be 3 times as old as Jack will be. How old is Anne now? So the first thing we're going to look for, who are we talking about? We're talking about Jack and we're talking about Anne. So I'm going to just put Jack and I'm going to put Anne. And we know that this is the kind of question that talks about their age now and their age in the future. Okay? So Jack is 8 years old now. So I'm going to put Jack now, he's 8 years old, right? In 6 years' time, Anne will be 3 times as old as Jack. So we know we're going to add 6 years to what we're talking about. This future is going to be 6 years. So if we add 8 to 6, what are we going to get? So Jack would be 14 years in the future. But it didn't tell us about Jack, it told us about Anne. 6 years' time, Anne will be 3 times as old as Jack. So we know that Anne is going to be 3 times as old as Jack, who is 14. 3 fours are 12, 2 carry the 1, 3 ones are 3, and 1 is 4. So Anne is going to be 42. But the question asks, how old is Anne now? So this is 6 years in the future. So we are going to have to minus 6 from that 42. And when we minus 6 from 42, I'm doing it here for those of you who still have to do this. This is fine. 12 minus 6 is 6. Sorry, my pen is giving a little problem. 12 minus 6 is 6. 36. So Anne is 36 years old now. Isn't that easy? It shouldn't give you a problem. All right, let's do another one. Mary is 8 years old. Peter is 10. In 4 years' time, John will be as old as Mary and Peter together. How old is John? So this question is slightly different. Who are we talking about? We're talking about Mary, we're talking about Peter, and we're also talking about John. So we have to set it up with that. So we're talking about Mary, we're talking about Peter, and we're talking about John. Okay? So Mary now, and we have future. All right. Mary is 8 years old, so we can put that down that Mary right now is 8. Peter is 10. Here is Peter, and Peter is 10. In 4 years' time, John will be as old as Mary and Peter together will be. So in 4 years' time, John is going to be, you add up their age, and John is going to be how old they are together in 4 years. So remember, we're adding 4 years. So what will Mary be in 4 years? 8 plus 4, that's going to give us 12. And Peter in 4 years, he's going to be 14. So the question says, in 4 years' time, John will be as old as Mary and Peter together will be. When we add the 12 and the 14, how much are we going to get? 12 plus 14, we're going to get 26. So we know that John, in the future, 4 years' time, he's going to be 26. But the question is asking, how old is John now? Now, for us to find out how old John is now, we're going to have to minus 4. And when we take 4 from 26, we know that John is 22. All right, so here's one I'm going to ask you to do for yourself. I want you to try it, pause the video, work it out for yourself, and come back and see if you have the right answer. Okay, so now that you've done it, let us do it together. It says Tom is 20 years old. In 4 years' time, Peter will be half what Tom's age will be. How old is Peter now? So who are we talking about? We're talking about Tom, and we're talking about Peter. All right, so we're going to put Tom, and we're going to put Peter. All right, and we have what they are now, and we're talking about the future as well. All right. So Tom is 20 years old. He is 20 years old now. In 4 years' time, Peter will be half what Tom's age will be. So in 4 years' time, so we know that the future we're talking about is plus 4 years. Tom in the future that we're talking about, he's going to be 24. And Peter will be half of Tom's age will be, what Tom's age will be. So if Tom is 24, Peter is going to be half. Half of 24 is 12. So Peter is only going to be 12. Half of 24 is 12. How old is Peter now? But remember, he'll be 12 4 years in the future. So we're going to have to minus 4 to get the age of Peter now. And if we minus 4 from 12, what are we going to get? Correct, we're going to get 8. All right, I know you got it right. All right, here's one more. Let me scroll it down a bit. Here's one more that I want you to try. Take a look at this one. It's slightly different, but I know you can figure it out. Work on this one and pause the video and come back and see if you got it right. Okay. Bob is 4 years old and Tom is 20. In how many years will their ages added together make 44? All right, so we know that we're talking about Bob and we're talking about Tom. And so let us write Bob and let us write Tom. And we are talking about now, and we're talking about sometime in the future. All right, Bob is 4 years old. We know he's 4 years old now, and Tom is 20. All right, Tom is 20. In how many years will their ages added together make 44? So we do not know how far in the future. They're asking us to figure that out. And they're telling us that when we add up their ages in the future, we should get 44. All right, so what we'll have to do is figure out when we add their ages now, how much do we get? 20 plus 4 gives us 24. Okay, so their ages added together is 24 now, but we are looking for when their ages will be 44. How many years is it between 24 and 44? Correct, that's 20 years. That's 20 years. We need to get 20 years more on their age for it to be 44. So if we have 20 years that we need to be added, we need to add 10 years to Bob and 10 years to Tom. So 10 years to Bob, if he's 4 now, he'll be 14. and 10 years to Tom. If we add 10, 20 plus 10, that would give us 30. And when we check, 14 plus 30 is equal to 44. So we are correct. But there's one little part that you have to be careful with. It said, in how many years will their ages added together make 44? Do not make the mistake to say in 20 years. It's not in 20 years. It is actually in 10 years, because it is 20. Bob added 1 year and Bob added 10 years and Tom added 10 years. So that makes a 20-year addition. But in terms of how much time has passed, it has only 10 years has passed. So the answer, in how many years will their ages be added together to make 44? The answer is 10 years. All right. I hope you have figured that out. I hope that's clear for you. If not, just go back and watch a video and we'll talk about it in class. See you next time.